Λοιπόν, καλησπέρα, καταρχήν. Είμαστε λίγοι, αλλά νομίζω είμαστε πολύ ωραίοι. Έχουμε εδώ τον κύριο Adrian Sherwood. Νομίζω οι περισσότεροι ξέρετε ποιος είναι ο κύριος Adrian Sherwood. Είναι ένας παραγωγός θρύλος στην ουσία. Έχει δουλέψει με σχεδόν όλη την τζαμαϊκανή σκηνή, αλλά όχι μόνο. Έχει δουλέψει με τους μεγαλύτερους καλλιτέχνες του πλανήτη. Έχουμε την ευκαιρία να συνομιλήσουμε μαζί του. Hello, Mr. Sherwood. Welcome.
Good evening.
Thank you for honoring us with your presence.
Thank you for inviting me. I must say this is the most impressive building that I've seen in the whole of Europe. It's beautiful.
It's not Parthenon. Yeah, no. It's not Parthenon.
No. Well, new building. It's exceptional. Well, yeah, so thank you for inviting me.
That's nice. We had the chance to speak a little bit before, and in fact, you changed all my notes. First of all, I would like to ask sorry from you and from the audience for my bad English, but I can speak really good Greeklish. Okay, so don't get me wrong, and please, you have to speak English like for dummies. You know, English for dummies, please.
So I do that all the time.
I have my notes here. I have some notes here, and there are some questions for you. But I would like to start a little bit different. You told me about a new album from Lee Scratch Perry. It's coming out, really? Is it a secret?
Yeah, no.
Because this is great news.
Yeah, no, I've worked with Lee Perry since '86, and I actually met Lee Perry. It's a very nice story, but I met him when I was 13 in London, in Palmer Record Shop in Harlesden. Well, I was 14. I must have been 13, 14. And I've got a long-standing, and obviously he's one of my heroes. So the fact that I can, I've got a good relationship with him, and we made this new album. And I kid you not, it's the best thing he's done for 3-4 decades. It's that good. So tonight I'm playing little excerpts of it, but it was literally finished on Thursday this week. So I embarked on a new album with Lee and a new album with Horace Andy, because I was also 60 last month, become an official grown-up, and I decided I wanted, for a long time now, I was going to do both, and I've managed to virtually finish the Lee album now, and the Horace I'm going to embark on seeing that finished from next month as well.
That's nice. Yeah. So, Mr. Lee has it still, right? Has it still.
Lee's great. Yeah, he's 82, like 20th of March
really, yeah.
Next month, and he's got the spirit of like a naughty child, and he's fantastic. So.
Great. Yeah. Well, Mr. Sherwood, you are the founder of Carib Gems label. Carib, I think it stands for Caribbean, right? This was a reissue label, mostly, right?
Carib Gems, I wasn't the founder, I was one of the founders, because at the time I was only 17 when we did that.
17?
Yeah, I was a junior partner, and I worked with a gentleman called Chips Richards, the Carner family, and Joe Farquharson, who's like a father to me, who sadly is very ill at the moment. And he brought me into the record business, and I was a shareholder at 17 in that, and I chose all the early releases of what we licensed from Jamaica.
Yeah, that's good, but my question, in fact, is that you were the co-founder of Carib Gems Records.
Yes, yeah.
Sound Pressure, the famous On-USound records.
What I did in
also, it's not only that. It's Hit Run Records, Green Tea Records, South Boy Records, so many record labels. Why? What happens?
Yeah, well, the thing is, nowadays, if somebody releases a record, you say to them, what, are you releasing it into a field to set it free? There's no record shops anymore, or very few. When I started, it was fantastic. You go to a record shop, make friends, discover music. It was very important. And I was trained by my older Jamaican friends, look, start a label and make a catalogue, so you own, a lot of titles that you've developed. Mm-hmm. So I started first Creation Rebel label when I was, first Carib Gems and Creation Rebel label. There was one release on it, Jar Wash. then I did, I have to remember all this, then I did Hit Run, and then I did 4D Rhythms, then On-USound, and Pressure Sounds, and Sound Boy, and a few other. So I just come from a history of people who, we used to look at the label and it was like something mystical to, you looked at or the record sleeve, it was like a nice experience. And I still make sure I release every year, like lots of old work I've done and new releases, and I love having the physical copy. And I think it's the same for other musicians I've met here as well. If you can release your own record and have the CD or the vinyl of it, it's a very nice thing to have.
Yeah, when you release an MP3, sometimes you don't consider it as a release. You don't see your music printed,
It's very hard, I think, for young people now because they're growing up. My children, they've all got every record. My eldest daughter, she's of the age that she still likes buying things, but very few now. So I don't think it's quite the same. But I'm obviously from the old school of have a record label and the magic. I used to sell it out of the back of my car to record shops before there was a distributor.
Yeah, but do you think that we are just romantic? I mean that I'm a vinyl lover, and I recognize some faces here that they are vinyl lovers as well. But do you think that we are just romantic? I mean that the new generation don't care if it's MP3 or it's vinyl or whatever. They just want to listen to music.
Well, it depends how fanatical you are. I mean, to me and a lot of the people I know, it's like the very famous Bill Shankly, the Liverpool football manager. He said, football's more important than life than death, which it clearly isn't. But to a lot of music people, it is their whole life. They live and die making music, and it's everything. And the amount of detail you put when you're producing a record or working, you put your heart and everything into it. But then the consumer now, they're not quite as... But there are the fans who really appreciate it, and other music people, and having a record on vinyl, if it's mastered properly, it sounds much better than a CD, because there are 2 frequencies missing in a CD. They transfer it, they lose 2 frequencies.
We agree on that, but do they really care about it, in fact?
Some people do, yes.
Because someone said a few years ago, I don't remember who was, but he said that we are paying so many money for, to get all this analog gear, to get the best microphones, the best preamplifiers, to make the best production, and finally everybody's gonna listen to it through these small earplugs and on MP3.
Not
it's
everybody.
pointless.
Luckily, not everybody. There are people who really, really are hi-fi nuts who value they take sound and their music seriously. For a lot of people, music is like they work Monday to Friday. Friday night they go out, and it's the soundtrack to a Friday evening. It could be a bit of something we did or somebody else has done. But for music fans, it's deadly serious. They value the quality of the sound, and you still find a kind of mystical quality about new things that you discover that are fantastic. So, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we agree on that. Well, let me ask you something different. You are not an academic musician, right? No.
I'm not a musician, no.
You have your own albums, but you are not a musician.
Laughingly, yeah.
Okay, so you are not an academic musician. No. Based on Wiki, you consider yourself as a tone-deaf person. Is that right?
No, the fact is with me, I'm not a trained musician, and my tuning is not brilliant. I'm more like I see myself more as a sound man, and because I've worked with musicians so long, I can hear what's supposed to happen and what's not, and I've got my own sound and style of doing things, but I don't see myself in any way as a musician. But I'm blessed by working with, some amazing people, and what I contribute is during the recording process is eliminating too much playing or enhancing little hooks, and then at the end, when everyone's finished, I mix it, which is my time of shaping the final thing that people listen to.
So you're not one of these producers that they want to tune the kick drum with the bass and stuff. You're not going into so many details, right?
For me, the best records are made. I miss the time of all live musicians. I'd much rather have 5 or 6 or 7 musicians in a room with me. We all talk. We make a good ambience. We rehearse. We record. We then do some overdubbing, tweak it up, and then mix it. And the whole album's made in a few days, and it's fantastic. That's some of my favourite productions. Nowadays, you're labouring for ages on fine-tuning, just a load of bollocks, to be honest. Just like, how does this look? Trying to get the swing factor, the feel factor. You have to try and get some performance on whatever you're producing, or it ends up sterile to me. But nowadays, most things are digital, and they're originated digital, and you're working on it that way. So what you have to do now is just instill the performance by still adding great players and great vocal performances to me to make it sound good. Otherwise, you're mixing something that's very stiff and not got any swing or any feel.
Yeah. So. Nice. Although being an already an established dub producer, you got invitations to work.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have to turn this phone off.
Please.
Excuse me.
Is that your wife?
No, it's not. It's my friend Philippe phoning.
Okay, good. So you had some requests to work with artists from other genres, like Deepest Mode, like Cold Cut with Mr. Matt Black, that he's a friend. Primal Scream. Really?
Scream, yeah.
Primal Scream?
Yeah, I've done. To be honest with you, I've been very, very lucky. I've worked with some really wonderful artists from outside, all different genres of music, from jazz to guitar bands to whatever.
But is it easy to apply your techniques into these kinds of music, or you go with the flow? I mean, if you make a jazz record, you try to be, into this jazz mood. Or
I think everything's about with the Jamaican music. What I love about it, there's more space in it than there is any other music. You hear the tonality, where the place for the bass, the foot drum, the picture of it, the sonic picture is uncluttered. So whatever I'm working on, I try to make sure that the production is uncluttered and spacious and has got like a good feel factor. So working with Primal Scream, I just stripped it down a little bit, made space in the production, and we did an album called Echo Deck that I think still, all these years on, sounds really good. I applied the same things to Ministry, Depeche Mode or whatever, and I use the same techniques that I use if I was doing a Jamaican production. So.
Okay, that's good. Okay, let me see where I'm gonna go right now, because I changed everything here. Could you give us an atmosphere could you give us an idea of UK's atmosphere back in the 70s, 80s? You were involved with the Jamaican artists, but at the same time it was, it was punk, it was, I don't know what other kind of musics, trendy. But you were with the Jamaicans. And considering that you were a young, white, British boy, how did they accept it to work with you?
I don't think it's thought. It's like the Jamaican community. It's like if you look at the history of racism in England, a lot of the first big wave of black immigration was in the 50s and into the 60s. More and more people came from the Caribbean. They were brought to England to work in factories and in the health service, on the buses, and doing jobs that a lot of the white English people didn't want to do. So when they settled in areas, they were facing a lot of racism. You had a very famous sign, and it said outside houses, it said, "No blacks, no Irish, no dogs," and that was written on a door. So you found that a lot of the black folk, they moved together in their own communities. They moved a lot with Irish people. There's a lot of very strong links between the Irish and black people. A lot of people don't realise, but a lot of the first people enslaved in the Caribbean were in fact poor Irish people the British shipped out there. So the history with black folk and the Irish is very strong. And a lot of the areas they congregated towards, the communities would help each other. So, I'm not saying this was all over the board, A lot of Irish were having racist views as well. But the communities, if you wanted to go and be part of that community, you could be part of the community. You just had to enjoy or have something in common with another human being. You might like the food, you might like a girl or something, you know, which was very dangerous in those days to have, you know, mixed relationships. People had to fight to establish where we are to this day, which thank God is very healthy. And for me, I had lots of black friends. I had friends, again, who were Indian, Pakistani. We had, my best friend at school's Greek. He's Stavros, he's a Greek heritage. We've got people of Polish heritage, but from Bangladesh to Africa. It's very, very multi-racial, Italian heritage, all at my school.
Yeah, but so how did you convince them to accept you to work with them? I mean,
well, that was a different matter. That came where I started off. I didn't just start making records. The first thing I did was buy and sell records and distribute them out of the back of a car. Then I was with older Jamaicans and we licensed tapes. I then got to meet musicians and I ran my first ever session. I saved up £200, gave each of the musicians £40 each, and we made an album in 2 days. And I just bluffed my way on. But after then, I started doing live shows where I was mixing front of house. And the first ever session I did, live front of house, was with Prince Farai. And the front of house man was a fat white bloke. He was very nice, but he didn't do anything, just balanced up and stood there. And I said, more hi-hat, more bass. He said, you do it to me. And I was, what, me? I had never been behind a mixing desk. And I literally started doing live sound before I ever went in a studio. And at that time, I was 18. And then I had, after 4 gigs, I had a bit of space echo, and people were saying, that's the best I've ever heard a live sound. And it wasn't because I was so good. It was because no one else was actually doing it. It was Dennis Bovell was doing it, and 1 or 2 others. But there was such a lack of people understanding sound or trying to push the sound. And I was just imitating what I'd heard on the records or balancing it. So the snare was here, the foot drum was here, and the voice was here. And soon, after a few gigs, people said, oh, would you mix my gig? And then I did a couple of records, and then people, you know, the Jamaicans are very, like, supportive of me. More supportive than white people who didn't think I should be making reggae. Yeah, I'd more probably more support from the black folk involved in the reggae business than the white ones. But nice, it all, you know, people are funny, and that's how it got. As Lee Perry says, people funny boy, and they certainly are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, nice. On 2003, after a long time, after being a successful producer, a really known producer, you released your first personal album, right? Why it took you so long? And why you ask through the album's title from the people to never trust a hippie? What's wrong with hippies?
Well, answering what's wrong with hippies, it was basically at the time you'd have all the people like Blair, Richard Branson, Bush. They'd all been former pot-smoking hippie people who turned into like, you know, worse than the establishment. You know, at least the establishment, you knew where you stand, where you stood. And I liked the title. It was off an old John Lydon thing, and I thought it was a good name.
Well, the title is nice, so but it became like a slogan. To leo kala. It became like a slogan, and I've seen it on T-shirts and stuff, and I thought that it was a little bit, you did a little bit, a small damage, let's say, to the hippie movement and stuff. But
no, the thing is, I like hippies. I've got friends who are hippies, but when hippies get into power and they start, it was like rough trade. You know, Jeff Travis, you know, he was like, hey, man, you know, he'd be brushing the floor, hey, how are you, you know. And really, they want to make money, you know, so they're hypocrites, a lot of them. A lot of those business hippies, you know, and that was like, I thought it was a good name for the record.
But why took you so long to release your first personal
album? Well, the irony of it is, I was doing lots of gigs, because as we got into the turn of the century and the years going on, record sales were going less and less. I was getting asked more and more to come and do live shows, either mixing the shows with big bands or doing live dub events or DJing. So my name was going on posters, but my name was always on the back of a sleeve, you know, produced by Adrian Sherwood, And if you put your name on the back of a sleeve, some people know you, but it was important for me to get my name on the front of a sleeve. And I'd never thought, honestly, I always thought those records were my records anyway, the On-U records. I never thought I'd put my name on the front. I was quite happy being the dishwasher who owned the restaurant. You know, I didn't mind staying back and wasn't bothered. So Real World Records, who were all hippies, I thought call it Never Trust a Hippie and put it. It amused me as well because of that. Lovely hippies, they're really nice. I've got great respect for Peter and all the people there, lovely people. So they asked me to do an album where they said you can go into all our back catalogue. And each thing I chose, they kept saying, oh, we can't use that because of religious reasons, or this person doesn't do this and that. So I said, well, why don't you let me make an album of my own? And they said, oh, would you do that? And I said, yeah, I'd love to, yeah. And that's how it happened. So.
We are happy you did that. Well, some people claim that this digital era that we live in helped us to make things easier and in less amount of time, right? At the same time, they say that all this digital thing killed the real musician, the good musician, by making him lazy, the musician, you know? Because now you have the editing, you have all that stuff. You don't have to be a really good guitarist. You can slice the guitar, you can quantize it.
Well, it didn't make musicians lazy. It might have opened doors to people who weren't great musicians. I don't know any good, lazy good musicians, because all the people I know, like Doug Wimbish, they practice
this is what I'm saying.
5 hours a day.
In fact, this is what they say. They say that they killed the good musician by making them lazy,
killed a lot
you know,
of them,
because nobody's going to practice. But right now, I would like to know your opinion on this endless conversation of digital versus analog and stuff. Because I know that in your studio, in fact, you have a lot of analog gear, but you work with
Pro Tools,
DAWs.
Yeah, well, to maintain tape is extremely expensive and slow. So I still like tape, but you haven't used it for a long time because it's just too expensive to maintain and specialist. If I was doing a live recording of musicians, I would like to use tape, but then housing the 2-inch machines, housing everything, is not that. It's not economically viable anymore. If I want to record that, I could go to a couple of my friends who've got great studios, and I could do that. But the digital thing is cool. It's actually helped lots of people enter, lot more people than ever could, to make music. But it's just the whole nature, it's eaten its own self, because now people don't have to buy the finished article. The whole thing of digital is basically the film industry and the record industry has been bitten so hard by it, but that's just how life goes. So now the whole world of the art world of making music and film and everything, it's been very destructive for it, because it's not really valued so much anymore as something you would buy anymore. You just copy it. You could come round my house and I could give you what might have cost me several £1,000s and just copy it onto your laptop for you in an evening. Yeah. That's what everyone does now.
That's true. Well, we were upstairs just half an hour ago, and we were listening to some really interesting tunes. Would you like to tell us about them? It's about these tunes with different languages and stuff.
Well, the frustrating thing at the moment is...
Sorry, just for the people, it's a new album with, I don't know, 10, 15 tracks with different languages in each track. And we were listening to it upstairs, so you're going to listen, right?
I might play a couple. I was going to play a couple
later. Yeah. So tell us about this project, because sounded really interesting.
Right, well, the problem is for anybody is I've got a few records I want to see released. But if I can't get them promoted, they come out, people pat you on the head and tell you how great the record is, but it doesn't make economic sense. So I want to try and get each thing I'm releasing in the right hands to promote it. I'm currently working with Warp and Ninja, which are 2 good labels, releasing my productions, and I'm hoping to see the Lee Perry handled very well, so people know of its existence. This album I've been making for 10 years it's got women from all over the world.
10 years?
10 years now, yeah. All singing in non-English. So I've got Nazator singing in Arabic. I've got Little Mai in Japanese, Chinese, Eritrean, Ethiopian. I've got a Greco track, which is a Southern Italian thing that has got some roots in this country. I haven't got a Greek track, so I wouldn't mind getting a good female Greek singer, and I'll give her a rhythm as well.
Yeah.
So if anybody, any great female singer springs to mind,
we have Paola, Navisi, we have
well,
good voices.
Well, get me somebody who's got a good heart and good brain, and I'll be happy. And then I'm still building this anyway, but I want to see it released this year. And it's a labour of love. It's called Dub No Frontiers, which is all female, all non-English, and it's a wonderful album. You heard a bit of it already, so.
Yeah, from the tracks I've heard, sounds really interesting. So, Mr. Sherwood, would you like to give an advice to, to all these young guys that they want to get involved into this production thing in the music business? To be producers, in fact. Well,
the only advice I can give anybody is whatever gear you've got, if you're working on the most basic equipment, you've got to try and get good on your tools. I work with people who work on very old machines, like Jazzwad or Bubblers. They're very good programmers, and they use older technology and get amazing results because they're like master with the machine. My key for investment-wise would be you've got to buy a good microphone, and you've got to try and get performance on your productions. So no matter how basic and raw your productions are, try and enhance it by getting a good old musician or young musician, or enhance it with some performance-led stuff, and study the swing factors on things to make the, if you're interested in groove, to make it a bit sexy and have some feel, and enhance it with good performance. And if you're investing in anything, buy like a mic. You get a good mic for a few €100. You don't have to go crazy on the expenses, and concentrate on trying to get good on what you use and develop a sound of your own. Use 3 or 4 of your favourite sounds of a reverb delay, stick with the same ones, and eventually you develop a little sonic of your own.
And of course, keep on working, right?
Do as much as you can while you can, and try and get as much, as good, also find good people to collaborate with. Find good, always keep practicing and keep working with other good people.
That's nice. So, would you like to ask Mr. Sherwood something, you guys? Okay. Θα το δώσουμε. Είναι εκεί ο φίλος μας στη γωνία. Thank you.
Hello there. Nice having you here. Recently...
θα μπορούσες έτσι να σηκωθείς λίγο, να σε βλέπουμε, να σε καμαρώσουμε.
Not necessary, but okay.
Τέλεια.
So, you recently released an album, if I'm correct, with Pint on Tectonic. If you have any comments on how you work that material, or...
Yeah, that was Man vs. Sofa.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm proud of that album. I'm glad you've... Have you got that album?
Not really, but...
Buy it!
Yeah, I will do. Convince me.
Bloody great. They all hear it and never buy it. What, you want me to... About what on it?
Though.
Sorry?
I've not heard it yet.
It's wonderful. What do you want me to say about it? How we made it?
Any experience on working with... I think I don't know your full catalog or what you've done because I'm currently studying the UK-based music.
Okay, well, Pinch is... it's the second record we made together. He's one of the kind of originators in the whole, what they call dubstep scene. But really, he's just a great producer. And he's very good at programming, very good at the beats. And the combination of him and me now, I think we're it worked out very well. He's bringing like a whole new angle, and I'm bringing obviously the vintage stuff. And I don't know anyone who knows that album, but that Man vs. Sofa album I'm very, very proud of. And working with Pinch, we've got a very good chemistry now after the 2 records we made together. But he's a great producer, and I don't know what more to say. He's a really good lad. I love Pinch. He's like my son. Yeah.
Thank you. Έχουμε καμιά άλλη ερώτηση, παιδιά? Εδώ το παλικάρι.
Hello, and thanks for all the music. In an earlier interview of yours, you said that you could be working with Horace Andy on an album probably in the same vein as Bim Sherman's Miracle. And this sounded very interesting.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm very proud of the Miracle album. I've made the Horace album's recorded.
Oh,
it's recorded.
That's great.
I'm going to try and make it function like Miracle. But the more we got into it, the more the grooves became very strong. So I'll play a couple of tunes of that tonight, unreleased. It's actually sounding seriously good. I won't play too much of it because I haven't got the... I've been concentrating... I've just finished the Lee Perry album this week. And I'm starting next week on bedding in all the horns and all the other things for the Horace. But it's sounding very good. And he's very happy. He phoned me from Jamaica last week to say if I want him to come back again and do any more. And he had a lovely time. And we did the whole of the voicing in 2 days, not messing around for months. The grooves are nice and the song selection's really good. So
that's really nice.
Yeah.
There was also, I think, a Crispy Horns album in the making with some dub syndicate.
Well, ITAL horns, they're called ITAL horns now. Yeah. Well, they're doing the horns on the Lee Perry and also on the Horace, and that album's finished. That's called Blow the Man Down is the name of the album. There's an English shanty called Blow the Man Down. Do you know that song?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've covered Blow the Man Down with horns. It's a really victorious, huge-sounding record. The problem I've got with that record is, again, like Dub No Frontiers, I've got to try and make sure I've got it released properly. Because if I just go and release it, we have a very rude saying in England, but it's like pissing on your own leg. If I spend all that money and release it, and nobody knows it's come out, it's a waste of time. So at the moment, I'm trying to engineer a situation to see, I've got 4 wonderful albums, that being one of them, Dub No Frontiers and a couple of others, that honestly, I'm very, very happy, but I'm trying to get them released properly. Excuse me being rude, but that is
You're right.
the thing. Yeah.
What else? I became a fan of On-USound through listening to African Head Charge's Songs of Praise. And then eventually I started getting pretty much everything from the catalog.
Good man.
Thank you.
Good man. You have to... Only joking, is it?
Is there any chance for another African Head Charge album in the
future?
future?
We're talking about it. We're talking about doing... we did one called Voodoo of the God Sent.
In 2011.
Yeah, which nobody really knows that one. It got lost.
It's great.
I like it as well. It got lost a little bit. Yeah. And I think it's time we did another one. But it's... again, it's difficult. We're getting the right musicians. And well, King Isoba, we got him to voice the tune in Ghana for us last week. So we're hoping to start building another one later this year. So, yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Well, Mr. Sherwood, I'm pretty sure that you know so many female celebrities in the UK, right? Please, could you tell us which one is your favorite and why?
Female celebrities.
Yeah, it's a question that I wanted to ask you for many years now. That you know plenty of them, like Sinead O'Connor and stuff. So, how it was to work with Sinead O'Connor, let's say?
How was it to work with her? Well, she's a brilliant artist. Really? She's got a great voice.
Really? Yeah, but okay, my question was a little bit, let's say, silly, but no, in fact, I wanted to ask you this. How was your cooperation with, let's say, Sinead? Because from what we know, she's a very special artist, very special person, very, special human being. So,
yeah.
What's your experience?
Well, for me, I'm not a singer, I'm not a proper musician, I'm just, I do what I do. So for me to work with somebody like Bim Sherman or Sinead or other great singers, I mean, I'm a lucky bloke. She's able to really emotionally touch you when she's singing. She's you heard her do Silent Night and all those songs. She's like outrageously got an amazing voice.
Yeah, but at the same time, I suppose that it's totally different to work with Lee Perry or Horace Andy, but that they are in the more reggae side, let's say, than to work with Sinead or someone that it's it's in a different side, let's say, more pop, I don't know.
Well, no, with her, she's got her roots in, obviously, Irish music. You know, we did an Irish album together, I don't know if you know that, all in Gaelic.
Yeah.
And I helped on that with Donal Lunny and Sharon Shannon and some great Irish musicians. And I did another album with Shane McGowan. I don't know if you know that album. That's a mad album when he was...
I'm not so sure about it.
Yeah, it was pretty mad. But the thing with her, she's incredibly special. She's like got this fragility, but she's bipolar. So 1 minute she's the happiest person in the world, and then for a long time she can be a very, very unhappy, sad person. But like we were saying just this week, you've got Quincy Jones has been putting out the wonderful The Mad Interview, and in the interview was saying how, you know, Frank Sinatra, he was completely bipolar as well. So I think lots of great artists have got that mental bipolar, and I would actually go as far as saying that, you know, some of the people like who I've worked with, I won't name any names, but they're probably quite high Asperger's as well. So you've got this mental health thing going that people don't talk, or they're just starting to talk about now, and it very much applies to two great artists I work with. I'm not going to mention their names now, but you can maybe guess who they might be. But I think they're very, very high on the Asperger's type register, where it makes them really incredible artists that fascinate people. Because people don't want a boring artist. They want a nutcase or a character, because it makes life more interesting than... Yeah.
It will be also interesting if you give us some names. We have some journalists here, please.
Not on mic.
Oh, okay. Ερώτηση, παιδιά. Εδώ ο φίλος μας.
Hello.
Hi there.
Thank you for being here. I have two small questions. The first one will be, what is the most unexpected thing you will listen when you will be home? Some music we will never imagine you could listen, for example.
Well, I listen to various different things. I listen to some jazz. I listen to some folk music. I was listening the other day to some Portuguese folk music from the Middle Ages, which somebody gave me, and I was just kind of fascinated listening through it. I listen to sound effect records. I listen to all sorts of things. I don't know anything what would surprise anybody. I mean, I like noise stuff as well. But I listen to it from abstract purposes sometimes to get maybe an idea for something. Don't know. What have I been listening to lately? I was listening to. I did an album with an artist called Ian King that nobody knows. Do you know that Ian King album? Yeah, you know that. You got it. Well, this man here is very, very serious because I bet nobody. You're probably the only person in the room who knows that album.
Hopefully, we have him here. Yeah.
Yeah, but that album, that album there, I would hold up to somebody and say that's kind of. I mirrored that on Miracle as well. I tried to do that on the Junior Delgado album. But a tragedy happened and I couldn't do it the way I wanted to. But that's a whole different thing. But the Ian King album, I just started playing again. I didn't play it for 10 years. And that album's rooted in lots of things. And my friend's mother is called Shirley Collins. Do you know Shirley Collins? Do you know Shirley Collins? Yeah. Well, that's Bobby's mother. He's very impressive what he knows, this fella. It's nothing to do with me, but she's like, she worked with Alan Lomax. And Lomax was her lover when she was 20, and her son is like one of my best friends, Bobby, who looks after Asian Dub Foundation. It was another great band that we work with, and her music is amazing. So you might play some Shirley Collins and listen to some of the history of the folk music. I'm quite interested in lots of things that don't add up. Also, Mark Smith died the other day, and I'm a fan of a lot of his lyrics, and I like the tension he instilled inside the music. So I've been playing a bit of Fall recently after he passed away, and all sorts of things. And Dagger Sound Force, I like Mark Anestis' project. That's been playing some of that. And
okay. And my last question is, it's more like general question, but what is your opinion? I'm sure you have one about electronic music nowadays. I'm talking. You mentioned WAP, for example. and I'm sure you heard about Lorenzo Cini, for example.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's like a really general question, sorry about it, but what's your opinion about his music, about grime, and you come from UK, so you know, and about even house music and techno music, like dub techno, I don't know, Berghain
it's
music.
It's a big thing to answer, all those things.
Yeah, I know, but
the thing is, it goes
even about Gabber, like Gabber music from Netherlands, it's kind of really extreme speed. Do you?
Well, the fact is this: I would not sit at home playing techno all night. I can assure you of it. Nor would I sit at home listening to house or Gabber. Sorry, but if I hear the top end of the house stuff or the top end of the great techno tunes, I'm jealous and wish I'd been involved in it. I think, wow, that's amazing. I could have added something. That's a fantastic piece of work. A lot of the Chicago house stuff, amazing things. I could go on and on and on this tune, this tune, this tune, but there's no point. I reach a point where music's nothing to do with me, and I hear it, and I think, just wow, get your ear. And it usually gets it for a performance or just because the sonic is so unusual. Because the problem I have being a producer, when I'm hearing digital or anything made on computers, techno or whatever, I can hear it. I can hear how it's been put together. You understand me? How they've constructed it. You can hear, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to go. Or you can hear it's about 8 bars before they're going to do something. And you can hear it's almost formulaic construction, how they put these things together. So when I hear something and the sonic's really odd, or they've mashed it up or destroyed things, actress or, people who just deconstruct and make it square pusher or whatever. I hear certain things they do, and I'm like, I love where they're trying to go, even if it doesn't perhaps move me so much, as something that I'm used to and more in my own comfort zone. But you need to hear things outside your comfort zone to learn stuff. I sound like a load of waffle bullshit there, but that's the kind of way I think about it. Because if I hear it and I can tell, and you think, oh, it's a matter of 8 bars before they're going to do something which is quite predictable, and lo and behold they do, it's just because people count in 4s and 8s, and being a producer myself, or if you are yourself, you know exactly what, or anyone who does knows what I mean. Making it change and jump out and kind of challenge people listening, that's sorry for that answer, it was a bit waffly. But you asked me a very wide question on lots of things there.
Έχουμε εκεί την κυρία Γαβριέλα.
When you're in the studio, can you handle other people being there, or do you like working on your own?
No, we always encourage people to come in. Normally I work on a Tuesday and a Wednesday, about 14 hours a day, and then last week we did Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I try and do like 2 or 3 long days a week, and usually by evening time I've got a section of friends who are critical and other ones who just sit on the stairs and in the kitchen stoned, listening to what's going on and saying, oh, why don't you do this? That's crap, or that's really good. So we've got quite a little network of friends, male and female, who come round. And where I live now, lots of musicians have followed me. I live in a place called Ramsgate by the sea. And literally down where I live, there's like people like Adamski, Congo Natty, Clem Bushy, Ghetto Priest, Skip Little Axe McDonald, all live near, all neighbours. So there's always people around, and we encourage people to be in the studio because you bounce off them. As long as they're not talking all the time when you're working, and then you kick them out of the room.
Do you have time to have young people and young producers next to you to pass on things that you know? Or
you have to have young people around, otherwise you don't go anywhere. We need people like, Pinch, you mentioned. I need younger people. We've got some female. We've got a young artist called Cub, K-U-B. She's really good, lives nearby. And just down the road in Margate, there's quite a good music scene of young producers, and they all come and say hello. And I met this busker in the street who's actually a brilliant songwriter, and we financed him for 3 days. He made an album, Richie, and he's got it out. He's selling it, the CD, in the street while he's busking now in the town. So we always get people in and help people, give them a bit of studio time and encourage people to come. But I can't have an open door policy of just making it a commercial studio, because the equipment we've got is too fragile. But we always have people, young and older ones, coming in to kick up tunes, either helping us with grooves or we're helping them. So.
One last question from me. Why do you think there's so few women producers out there? Is it like, why is it so male dominant, this profession?
Well, I think I just mentioned Daisy, who's called Cub, is another artist in Margate. She's signed to One Little Indian. She's another solo artist. There's quite a few women. And the reason I did that Dub No Frontiers, there's so many women in the reggae arena who don't really get projected forward enough as well. So I think there's a lot more women out there than people think. They're probably in their rooms like wondering how they can get their music out of the room. It's also quite sad watching a lot of people hammering away, trying to make a career in the industry, and the years passing by and looking for, you know, recognition for all the work they've put in. The record business is like a dirty, weird business, so you've got to really love it. But I'd recommend all my kids have another job as well as doing the music, because they all do music very well. But it's very, very tough, and as a woman, it's doubly tough, particularly if you dream of having a family and a life. So, I hope that doesn't sound too negative. But it's just, yeah. Yeah.
Κάποια ερώτηση, παιδιά, τώρα που έχουμε εδώ τον άνθρωπό μας μπροστά. Κάτι. Από ό,τι φαίνεται δεν έχουμε ερωτήσεις. Mr. Adrian, thank you for being
very much.
here.
Cheers, sir. Bless you. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
And,
we're going to have a little dance later. Come and join us upstairs.
Σε λίγο πάνω στο φάρο θα έχετε την ευκαιρία να ακούσετε και κάποια από τα καινούρια που συζητήσαμε πριν εδώ του κυρίου Sherwood. Πραγματικά αξίζει τον κόπο. Θα σας περιμένουμε όλους πάνω βασικά. Είναι υποχρεωτικό τώρα που το σκέφτομαι. Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ και το Ίδρυμα, το Σταυρονιάρχο. Τι να πω, ευχαριστούμε.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.